What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I actually had a completely different video planned for you guys, but I'm going to push that back to tomorrow, so if you hear the commentary and it sounds a little out of date, just know it's because it's in like a couple of days later, instead of it being posted today. But I had to get this video out to you guys, because over on Inside Gaming, they had a little bit of an interview with the individual who was a part of the process of building the current day matchmaking system that everybody's been having a very rough time with. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I don't think many of you are going to be happy with the overall outlook of what the future's going to hold for COD, but we're going to sit here, we're going to discuss, I'm going to cover some important points, and we'll try to come to a conclusion by the end of this video and see what you guys have to say down in the comment section. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you do enjoy today's video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post daily here at 8 in the morning Eastern time. And of course, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, if you guys are interested, I got a link to that channel down in the description of this video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now with that being said, let's dive right on in here. Again, if you guys want to read along, I will leave a link to the interview down in the description of this video for you guys to, check it out and read for yourselves. But just know I am going to be skipping around to kind of highlight the major points here. But I'm going to start right here with Olsen initially wrote the MMR algorithm for China's Call of Duty Online in 2015, with the algorithm making its way into its first mainline entry with 2016's Infinite Warfare. So yes, indeed, this whole new, skill-based matchmaking bracket, although I didn't personally feel it in Infinite Warfare, I had a 5 KD in that game, believe it or not. Apparently, it was present in that game. It's a system that has been there ever since, with the matchmaking itself becoming more sophisticated over the years. That's probably exactly why it feels thicker now compared to Infinite Warfare. But Olsen's rating algorithm remaining essentially unchanged. Olsen would move on from Raven Software in 2020, going on to co-found Invocation Games in 2022, a development studio that provides custom skill rating and ranking systems to games. My God. So, ladies and gentlemen, basically the person who put together this algorithm that we have for Call of Duty left, Raven Software in 2020 and has moved on to another studio that hyper focuses on, custom skill ratings and ranking systems in video games. My God, dude, gaming is getting so sweaty nowadays. It's absolutely mind-boggling. The fact that we even have a studio put together to hyper focus skill ratings and casual experiences, I'm assuming that's what it's all about, is crazy. Moving on to the next little section here, nothing really too crazy, just saying that, he's sitting down with this developer to chat it up. But they put a huge emphasis on this, saying, but one thing seems for certain. Skill-based matchmaking is not going away in Call of Duty, and arguably any other live service game that wants to be successful. That right there is not something I want to go ahead and read. And keep in mind, guys, this is also the individual who put together the white papers that we read for skill-based matchmaking regarding Call of Duty. But talking about the white papers, they actually discussed that right here. The interviewer said, but first, I wanted to address the elephant in the room when it came to Call of Duty skill-based matchmaking white paper and its legitimacy. Because as we all know, there is always a sense of doubt when a giant company tries to be transparent. When asked, Olsen told me that the white paper is accurate, and he can attest to it based on his own analysis at Call of Duty and on other games. Live service games need skill-based matchmaking, and skill-based matchmaking needs MMR, he said. He continued to explain that both are needed to ensure long-term sustainability and player engagement, which are both crucial components in ensuring a successful live service game. But that doesn't mean everyone should just shut up and like skill-based matchmaking. It's funny because he really does play both sides here. He's completely for the matchmaking system that we have in Call of Duty, but at the same time, you'll see later on, in this post, he starts to say that, the matchmaking, you shouldn't stop talking about it. If you don't want it, you should still be speaking up, but for very specific reasons. But I just want to point out that I think it's hilarious that they believe that, this matchmaking system that we have right here will allow us to have a longer term sustainability for player engagement. I don't get it, man. With all honesty, the majority of all my friends that I know IRL are pretty much done with COD, and it's because of this skill-based matchmaking system. They can't even play with me personally. If they log into Call of Duty, they have to play by themselves, because if they get put on my team, they're going to be in my bracket. It's never really like that before, you know what I'm saying? Even back in the OG days, the charm of having a more toned down matchmaking system is that we could all play together, and it was always a mix and a variety of matches so everybody can enjoy it, not just, them trying to fight my competition 24/7, ruining their experience because, again, they're not in my bracket. In my personal opinion, it kills the long-term sustainability of these people because nobody wants to play with one another, and the majority of the time, a lot of people are either playing solo or they got to stack up with extremely crazy players so they can have a full team and play like it's ranked in the casual environment. But Again, that's just, how I saw it. But they move on to say, on stats, Olsen explained that around half of the players would be driven to stop playing without skill-based matchmaking because the sometimes you stomp, sometimes you get stomped narrative only applies to around 40% of players by skill, with 10% of the very top players doing 90% of the pub stomping. Olsen used X-Defined as an example, oh boy, here we go, of churn-based matchmaking, and explained that although X-Defined had team balancing, people don't like being the weak link repeatedly, and high-skill players don't like carrying a team of potatoes all the time. This is partially true, but in my personal opinion, I personally believe this is complete, utter BS. Again, this is just a system to protect players from not getting stomped. Basically, when I read this part right here, all it screamed to me is people are getting stomped and we're going to give them a bunch of courtesy lobbies to make them feel better about themselves. When that was never the situation with Call of Duty. Back in the prime days of COD, if you were going to get whooped, guess what? You were going to get whooped again and again and again until you finally stood up and you took the action to learn different things and understand the game and tried to overcome those obstacles, and then you got better at the game. Whoa, who would have ever imagined? But no, this system is to prevent the people who do want to improve from enjoying the game and, enjoying the benefits of improving, and allowing the lower bracket to be able to just hop on and just not give a crap and still be able to get in top 3, even though they probably didn't even deserve it. And on top of that, it's funny because I have a lot of people who come into my content here and they go down in the comment section and they say they're casual players as well, holding like a 1 KD, maybe even lower, and their experiences still feel absurdly sweaty. So everything said here just kind of confuses me a bit, if I'm going to be honest with you. And I'll say this as well, in X-Defined, guess what? My friends wanted to play with me. You want to know why? Because they weren't forced to play with my bracket 24/7. It was constant variety. Sometimes we verse people of my skill. Sometimes we verse people of their skill. Regardless, we're there. We're kicking back. We're chatting, laughing, having a good time, and just playing the game. We're not having to be locked in, faces glued to the screen, calling out every single thing that's happening, and a casual experience. Never happened for me within the X-Defiant world. But let's go ahead and move on here. When asked for a solution to skill-based matchmaking, Olsen believes that it is needed to ensure long-term sustainability for a live service game. However, thinks that its solution is transparency of where players rank with their skill. The massive problem with skill-based matchmaking, though, is that you don't know what league you are in anymore. The skill-based matchmaking takes away the sense of skill and mastery. There's less skill feedback, stats don't matter as much, KD is less of a bragging right. It's a serious design problem, really. He continued, if you are trying to get better at the game, skill-based matchmaking just rewards you with tougher opponents. I'd even say that skill-based matchmaking punishes players for being good. That's unfair, and players are right to complain about it. This is what I'm saying. I'm a little confused because he just said that without skill-based matchmaking, all it is just the top 10% pub stomping. But now he's saying that with this skill-based matchmaking, it's punishing those top 10% players, and they can't have any fun because they're constantly playing ranked. I don't know. I don't get it. But I do agree with the fact that with this matchmaking system in place, since, obviously I don't think we're going to ever see a go anytime soon, they should really give you something more than just simply tougher opponents. Anything would be better than what we have right now. If we have to play quote-unquote ranked in the casual world, we should be able to see where we go up against other players, what our MMR is, what we're like on the leaderboards against one another. Maybe we can get some additional things, and I'm going to read on here and you'll see exactly what he's talking about. Olsen thinks one solution is to reward players with more XP for being better at the game. Casual doesn't need to be completely about skill like ranked, but you should be able to see something about the average skill of your lobby or opponents. Like maybe this match is a gold tier, so you get a 1.2 times XP multiplier. You should be able to see your MMR, matchmaking rating, aka skill rating, and the combat record. You shouldn't have to file a personal data request with Activision just to get that information. I agree. Honestly, great points there. Solid points. I think that's the truth, Since the system apparently has to stay, even though I completely disagree with that, and like I said, we'll continue on with that later on. With it being in place, we should see all of our stats, every last bit of it. If you really want people to compete on that level and play casual like it is supposed to be competitive, we should be able to see more. And if we are in a higher tier lobby, we should be rewarded for sticking around in these lobbies 24/7. Additional XP or just other prizes should be given at this point if they want it to be this hyper competitive. But let's move on here. He went on to explain that he did pitch such a system for Call of Duty on multiple occasions, even at a meeting at Infinity Ward during 2019's Modern Warfare development. That's a bad idea to try to bring anything to an Infinity Ward's management. We know how egotistical they are. However, this is funny. However, Olsen noted that the lack of bandwidth that studios have to consider new ideas outside of the lead studio makes such pitches an uphill battle, especially coming from a non-designer. So I tried, but it didn't catch on, he said. The other reason I think it didn't catch on is that most designers just don't know much about how MMR works and therefore aren't comfortable using it as a component for design. Okay, let me just say something real quick. You're telling me that these devs have no clue how this system works, yet they all are claiming that it's amazing for the game. How does that make any sense? This is literally all I'm getting from this. You know, the people who put this system together are trying to further improve the system to make it better, I guess, at a certain point, but they're not accepting it because it's too complex for the designers to really understand, and they don't give a crap, and they don't want to build their game around that. So they ignore it because they have no clue what's going on. I don't know what to say about that, man, but again, by all means, you guys can go ahead and tell me. But let's move on to the next section here. In COD, Olsen said that the MMR is more volatile in the mid-range, which is an issue that could be addressed. He said that COD players who requested their data from Activision are likely seeing that volatility too, with their MMR bouncing around without a clear indicator as to why. But that's why Olsen believes that players should openly be able to see their MMR for transparency so they can see what's going on. He noted that preventing people from seeing their MMR or making your data request it from, Activision leads to a lack of faith and ultimately leads to conspiracy theories that we often see flooding the internet. Contrary to what some players believe, you really don't have to try your hardest every match. If you go off meta, your MMR will adapt after a few bad games, and matches will get easier. Oh, I'm sorry, that is so bullcrap. Oh my god. But moving on, the exception would be when you're playing low pop modes that attract high skill players, or during open betas, he said. For example, you probably shouldn't expect a game mode like Domination, a game mode that traditionally attracts higher skilled players, to get much easier. Speaking of conspiracy theories, Olsen also pointed out that COD skill-based matchmaking gets mistaken for EOMM, engagement optimized matchmaking. But it's really just because the MMR is highly responsive and volatile. I'll tell you right now, whether this game has EOMM or not, whether they're going to be honest about it or not, the high volatility MMR is probably the biggest problem with the overall game itself. And it does not resolve going off meta. It just simply does not. If you're a skilled enough player, you will play just as good with any other weapon that you could try. So guess what? When you go off meta, you're still not going to be doing too bad. It's not like you're about to go on the bottom of the leaderboard. You're not going to perform as good as you would with a on-meta weapon, right? Like the Jackal or KSV that aims or something like that, where you could really pop off. But you'll still do good enough for it to consider you in the high tier, brackets, because I'll tell you right now, I never witnessed that a day in my life. Every game that I play, and you guys see the gameplay, I'm showcasing you guys Zarkov gameplay and, DM10 gameplay, LMG gameplay, snipers, every gun that you don't usually see, I'm showcasing to you guys. I use it all the time, yet I still verse Jackals on a game-to-game basis. Like I said, I don't necessarily believe that one. But moving on here, what's clear is that skill-based matchmaking in COD and other live service games is likely never going to go away. They are fundamental systems to keep a game alive and thriving by keeping players around, and has become even more apparent recently following Activision's clampdown on VPNs and patching skill-based matchmaking get-around methods like two-boxing, a method where a player, you guys already know two-boxing and stuff like that. But the issue with COD in particular seems to be transparency, and players should be rewarded for being good at the game, be that XP bonuses, as Olsen suggested, or even going one step further and offering exclusive calling cards, emblems, and so on. I'll be real though with you. I mean, if you're going to give calling cards, emblems, and all this stuff for performing good in casuals, you might as well just make it ranked. That's the moral of the story here. It doesn't make sense to me that this system is needed current date. It just doesn't. It was never needed back in the day. And Call of Duty used to average millions of players. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand this whatsoever. If anything, The people who are playing these games nowadays have been programmed that skill-based matchmaking is the way. And when it gets stripped away from the game, they don't know what to do with themselves because they have no clue what matches they're going to be thrown into. And it's going to feel off because some matches are going to be chill, some matches are going to be really, really crazy versus like very top-tier players. But again, that's the randomness of a casual experience. I don't know. Again, you guys can let me know down in the comment section what you guys are feeling. That's pretty much, finishing up the article here. But I gotta be real. It's sad. It's sad to hear that the outlook of Call of Duty and many other games is leaning more towards skill-based matchmaking. It also makes me very worried about the next Battlefield game because they already stripped the server browser from us in Battlefield 2042, although the game was still casual. But what does that mean for the future of us? Does that mean that they're going to implement it even further within the next Battlefield game? Because I highly doubt we're going to get the server browser back, which means that we're going to have to rely on the quick join feature. And it is good because the game has, a lot of players to filter in, so it can't be very strict with the matchmaking compared to a 6v6 game where they only need 12 individuals to be found, which is a lot easier with strict matchmaking. But it still worries me nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen. But guys, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post daily here at 8 in the morning Eastern time. And of course, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, if you're interested, got a link to that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all next one. Peace out.